Good morning and welcome to today's video where we make sourdough bread. If you saw my last sourdough video, I showed you all the steps, all the rules, all the tools, and today we are making the same bread without using a scale, without using a Dutch oven. We are breaking all the rules and we will still make yummy, delicious bread same day. We're not going to extend the fermentation. We're going to make it quick. Tonight I will be eating bread. The first thing you need is starter. Typically you want to use an active starter, and this was fed and I put it straight into my refrigerator last week. I don't know how many days old this is, but it still seems thick enough. It's a little runny. You can see how it's moving in there. It's a little runny, but we are going to use it anyway. When I fed this and put it in my fridge, I actually doubled the recipe. I'm not going to tell you all the measurements here in the video, but I will write it all down in the description below. I am doubling this recipe so that I can show you two different methods on how to bake your bread without using a Dutch oven. We are using a metal bowl today, and if you've read anywhere online that you are not supposed to use a metal bowl when making sourdough bread, that is incorrect. Years and years ago when they made bread, they would use their silver bowls, and silver is a reactive metal, and so silver would react with the sourdough. So we don't cook with silver anymore. Stainless steel. You're fine to use stainless steel when cooking sourdough. Don't listen to that myth. I typically use filtered water when making my sourdough, especially maintaining your starter. However, today we are using tap water to do my bread. And I think if you did tap water every once in a while for your starter, that would probably be fine. However, on a day-to-day maintenance, that chlorine is eventually going to weaken your starter and it won't be as strong and healthy over time. So when maintaining the starter, use filtered water. To make bread, we're gonna do tap water today, and I'm going to do about 3 cups worth. Instead of doing the fermented where I mix this together and then add the salt later after it's like had time to break down, I'm just going to add it right now with it all together. When I weigh all of my ingredients, I don't end up with a bunch of dishes. All right, we're just gonna give this a good stir. And I'm not even using my dough whisk, which I absolutely love. So we're gonna do the wooden spoon today.
When you're done doing that, can you put them?
I'm not really kneading the bread. I'm just taking my flat hand and kind of shaping it into a ball, kind of mixing it together. It does feel a little bit sticky here. Okay, so you can see the texture is a little bit sticky. We're just going to let it sit now for an hour, and then I am going to do 1 stretch and fold. Usually you do like 4 sets of stretch and folds every like 30 minutes, but we're just going to do 1 set in an hour after it has had time to sit. And instead of using a bowl cover, I just got a tea towel like this, wet. And you wanna get it wet so that it doesn't dry out the top layer of the dough. It has been 1 hour since we mixed up the dough. We are going to go in with 1 stretch and fold, and then after that, we're just going to leave the dough and keep an eye on it. I can't give a set time on how long you're going to leave the dough out on the counter to ferment, but it'll be several hours, and I will just watch it throughout the morning and see what it looks like, and we'll go from there. When I very first started making bread, I thought I would do this overnight because that would be easiest. And yes, you can do this overnight, like while you're sleeping. However, I suggest if you're first starting out to do it during the day so you can keep an eye on the dough and see how it does in your environment and in your kitchen. Because when I woke up in the morning, it had over fermented and it was really flat, really runny, and it just was really difficult to work with. So I had missed the point of being able to form it into like a ball. If you're first starting out, just do it during the day. We are about 2.5 hours into the process, and you can see there's like a little bubble there, maybe a little bubble there, and it is starting to fill out in the bowl a little bit more than it did this morning. Okay, now it's been a total of about 5 hours, and you can see there's even more air bubbles in here, and I could probably let it sit in here longer, but I really want to get going with the next step so that I can get this baked up before tonight. For this next step, this is where you would usually take the dough and put it in either a batard or a bowl-shaped banneton, but if you don't have bannetons, let me show you what you can do next. I would say most people have bread pans. If you do, you want 2 bread pans and butter one of them really, really well because the other one will go on top of it like that to create steam. And another method is to use a colander. You can use a bowl, but the reason why I like the colander is because there's air that can like flow in between when you're doing the next proofing stage so that there's not as much condensation and then less sticking of the dough. You'll just take a tea towel and lay it into the bowl and then dust it with a little bit of rice flour or even cornmeal. If you don't have cornmeal or rice flour, you can do regular flour as well. I'm going to take a bench scraper and divide this into half, and if you don't have a bench scraper, go ahead and just use a knife. I'm going to go in and stretch it out thin. If you'll remember in my last video, I did a bench rest where I made my round ball of dough and I let it sit on the countertop for about 15-20 minutes to let the gluten relax, and then I went in and did this again and we kind of reshaped it. Today we're not going to do that. We're just going to put it straight into our bowl. This doesn't have to look pretty, doesn't have to be perfect. You can see all the little bubbles in here, which is super great. And you can even see like a little bit of a window pane right there. It's pretty see-through without the dough ripping, which is awesome because I didn't do any stretch and folds other than that first one. So we're just going to kind of shape this. Taking my pinkies up against the countertop and pulling it towards me to build tension and kind of popping any big air bubbles along the edge as I go. Kind of getting that top as smooth as we can. Once I start seeing that the dough is ripping, I'm going to just stop, grab my colander with the tea towel. I'm going to scoop it up and then put the smooth side down on the bottom. Just like that. I'm going to just kind of cover it up. This is now called the proofing stage. All right, we are going to shape this one a little bit different so that it can fit inside of this bread pan. I'm going to kind of just tuck it in, kind of take my finger and push the ends in and pinch them. This is pretty sticky, but we're gonna work with it anyway. The dough is kind of longer this way, and so I'm going to take my hands and kind of scoop it in a little bit and then re-tuck it under, just kind of pull it towards me. A little sticky. Okay, we're gonna just scoop it up and lay it in there. Just like that. I'm just going to take the same wet towel I had earlier and drape it across these to let them proof for about an hour. Okay, my bread has been proofing it right here for about 2 hours actually. I started this process at about, I think, 8 o'clock in the morning, and it is now just after 4 o'clock, and we are going to have bread for dinner. So, usually, I would take my bread from proofing like this and I would put it into the refrigerator and bake it in like 6 hours or like the next day. And putting it in the fridge for a cold proof can extend the fermentation, increasing the benefits. It breaks down more of the gluten. It gives it more of a stronger flavor. But if you don't have the time to do that, that's okay. Let's just pop this right into the oven without refrigerating it. Now it's not going to be cold, so it will be a little bit more trickier to score. If you do not have like a razor blade or a lame, you can use a sharp knife. However, I am going to use my lame in this circumstance because the dough is warm and my knives are not sharp at all. So that is one tool that I am using for this video that you don't have to use, but it is very helpful. Using a Dutch oven, you're going to get steam. I am not using a Dutch oven today, so I need to create my own steam. I have turned the oven on to 425 degrees. I have a sheet on the bottom. I'm going to throw some ice cubes in it right when I put the bread in. I am also going to spray it with this spray bottle right here to mist water onto it, put the lid on it, and then put it in the oven for 15 minutes, and that will hopefully create enough steam to get enough rise out of my bread. Normally I would dust a little rice flour on the top so that you could see the design a little bit better. I am just going to go with this today. Ooh, this is hard to do. You can see how it's just like pulling. It's so much better to put this in the refrigerator. And I'm just going to kind of go like that. This is so sticky. It is completely optional to open up the oven 7 minutes into the bake and re-score where you had already scored to hopefully open up the bread a little bit more. I'm now going to increase the temperature to 450. After the 15 minutes, you want to come in and take out the tray that you had on the bottom, as well as remove the top of the pan. And we'll bake this for another 15 minutes. Ooh la la, look at my bread.
Now we got the cream cheese.
I had to run out of the house, and so I did end up putting this one in the refrigerator for a couple hours because things got crazy here. But that's the wonderful thing about sourdoughs. It is so flexible. You can use the refrigerator whenever you need to and come back to whatever step you were at. We are doing a cookie sheet on the top to kind of keep the steam down. We have a cookie sheet on the bottom. I'm going to add ice cubes for steam, and then we'll be putting the bread right there. If you had a pizza stone or a still for your oven, this would be perfect. Use that because it conducts the heat, it retains the heat, and it would do a really good job. I don't, that is on my list, is to get a pizza still next, but I'm using a cookie sheet for this instead. All right, look how good this is gonna turn out. I can already tell it's gonna be a good loaf. So I've just got some parchment paper here. I'm gonna flip it upside down. Look at all those cute little handprints from my babies. Because this is cold, it should score a little bit easier than my other loaf. Oh yeah. I'm just gonna go in again, kind of make it as deep as I can. And I'm not making anything too fancy on here. And then I'm going to spray it with water because we want steam. You want to work fast because you don't want the heat to escape your oven. You want to keep the steam in there. You don't want to burn yourself, and you don't want to break the glass of your oven door. So lots of things to be careful for. I'm just going to go in and kind of put that again. Okay, so the bottom is a little bit more burnt, but look how pretty this is. Oh my goodness. I just made 2 really pretty loaves of bread in one day, and I didn't do any stretch and folds. I didn't use a Dutch oven, and look, you can do this too. I might even say this might be better than some of my loaves where I have done all of the right things. So, I mean, look at that.